Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Dave Rubenstein, editor-in-chief of ITOps Times, and welcome to today's session where we'll be discussing the state of AIOps 2023 based on the findings in the annual report from the ITOM solutions provider OpsRamp. As we've been writing in ITOps Times, AIOps has been a valuable tool for improving operational efficiencies by automating processes and is top of mind for many organizations this year. Among the findings in the report are the fact that intelligent incident alerting is the top use case. But yet the report found fewer than half of respondents said automation of tedious tasks is their primary operational benefit. So with me to talk about all this today are Dennis Callahan. He's the head of content at OpsRamp, and Melissa Hurley, Vice President of Product Solutions. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. All right. So, Dennis, why don't you get us started in the program, and let's talk about the state of AIOps.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little bit of background. On this survey report, we wanted to look at what are people concerned about today? Because obviously there's a lot of things going on with the economy. We have inflation, we've got rising interest rates, the slowing growth of the economy, even as inflation goes up. Still some supply chain concerns, the Russian war on Ukraine. So what is that? How does that translate to the economic outlook for IT operations? And one thing we did find, David, was that people are actually still fairly optimistic about growth. It wasn't really that interesting of a slide, so I didn't include that here. But everyone's optimistic. That's great. But what are they really looking for? What are their obstacles to achieving that steady growth and profitability? That's how we phrased the question to the MSPs. So you can see here, improving operational efficiencies was number one. Increasing customer satisfaction and reducing churn was number two. And the big three there were hiring and retaining talented employees. So, Melissa, I was wondering what you thought about some of this. I mean, certainly it looks to me like these folks are really prepared for some challenges and wanting to really watch the spending, be more efficient. Yeah. Not lose customers. Can't lose customers today. So, any thoughts from you on what the data tells us?
Yeah, I mean, I hear that often. Improving operational efficiencies, because it's really important to be able to do that so that you can continue to increase your customer satisfaction and reduce that churn, because it really is a challenge today. It's just so easy to shop around these days, and providers make it so easy to migrate over to their services. And that can be scary, right? There's a lot of pressure on these companies to keep customers happy. And like I said, improving operational efficiencies will help MSPs get there. So it makes sense that these two are top of mind today.
Okay, so let's go to the next question, because we asked the enterprises a similar question, but we asked it a little bit of different way. And I thought these were interesting response we got. Once again, here's that efficiency, and we asked them, what are the primary needs, challenges for your IT operations team to overcome in 2023? So you see that efficiency up there, that's number two. And look at number one, automate as many operations as possible. And listen, this came up a lot in this report about automation. Everybody wants to do automation.
For sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I agree. You should automate as much as possible. Automate your run books, automate incident routing, server compliance, automate remediation as much as possible. Try to get this to be a well-oiled machine. Get the repetitive tasks out of the way so that your team can focus on the fun stuff. Right. So, I mean, that's definitely something that's achievable, especially here at OpsRamp. That automation is definitely makes teams more efficient, which is that second survey question, right? Or survey response right there. So that makes total sense.
Yeah, and look at number three too: maximize use of artificial intelligence and machine learning. I think we like that at OpsRamp, right? That's part of our message there. You're gonna get to automation by using AI and ML better, right?
Right, and that definitely helps with this part of automation in general, right? Because we use AI and machine learning to be able to do automated incident routing, and be able to do automated server compliance, be able to reduce noise in your environment in general, and get all the way down to the auto remediation. So I'd say all of those go hand in hand quite a bit.
Yeah, so improve efficiency, automate more things,
Yeah.
and then you'll free IT up for more strategic digital transformation type stuff, right?
Okay.
The holy grail, right? So let's take a look at what the current IT ops landscape is. And so before we really get into the nitty gritty of AI ops, let's look at what IT ops is today. So this is our favorite OpsRamp survey question. How many monitoring tools do you currently have to monitor and manage your entire environment? What do you think, Melissa? Not too bad, right? MSPs using a few more tools. That's probably not a surprise, but I think enterprises are getting better at this reining in the tool sprawl.
I don't think so. To be quite honest, it's funny because I just read a survey last week that called out that the magic number was 7. And 82% reported that they used 4+ tools, but a far bigger percentage used more. And it's not uncommon, and it's been an issue for as long as I can remember. And it happens mainly because of, I'd say, like 3 things, 3 reasons I can think of that come to mind right now. One of them is different teams may need point solutions to solve problems. The network engineer guy is going to use something slightly different than the AIOps persona.
Right.
The second one is probably preference, right? I have a problem. I used this tool in the past. It worked well. I'll use it here. I don't want to learn something new. That's I think that's kind of common. And what happens here is, what I've seen often is that companies end up using many different tools to solve the same problem. And what I mean by that is tools have overlapping or identical capabilities. So now you're spending more money to have multiple tools that do the same thing.
And we wonder why we're drowning in alert noise, don't we?
Yeah. And third that comes to mind is just the technology shifts. We're in a world where technology is evolving so fast, and these tools need to keep up, and they don't always keep up. So, for example, if I'm about to deploy Kubernetes on AWS, but my tool doesn't support that, I need to find something else, and I need to find it fast.
Yep.
So I'm going to download the first tool that I see that has great peer reviews. And, the problem across the board here comes down to cost, right? So we're entering, as you mentioned earlier, uncertain economic climate, and the tools consolidation is bound to happen. I think more so this year than we've seen in the past, because again, this has been a problem for so long. But when you're looking to cut costs, I feel like this avenue is obvious, right? I think people are really going to start taking a look at what they have, that list of 20. Believe it, I've seen spreadsheets of 20+ tools, and try to find commonalities and reduce, the amount of vendors that they're dealing with.
Yeah, well, you said the magic number was 7, so we got a plurality there in that 5 to 10 range. I guess that's good, but then look to the
right. I mean, 2 different reports, but it's resonating across the board, no matter who you're surveying. Yeah.
So the next slide will tell us a little bit more about why we have so much tool sprawl, and that is domain-specific monitoring is still how people are detecting these production issues or IT outages. I mean, look at that's pretty striking, those numbers, right?
Yeah. I mean, to be quite honest with you, the first one does not surprise me. It goes to the whole tool sprawl problem, right? This is kind of how it happens.
Yeah.
I will say, if you find a platform that brings together people, forces them to solve the problem as one unified team, you'd be surprised at how much your time to resolve an issue will improve. I'm not saying that there's no longer a need for certain point tools, but it's pretty great when you can actually get, everybody together and solve problems. It really provokes questions. Sure. But yeah, this does not surprise me, to be honest. It's inevitable.
So you have a new environment, you get a new tool to monitor it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and I think that my next question kind of feeds into surprise. Dependency mapping is our top incident management pain point. When you understand that application to infrastructure dependencies, and you mentioned Kubernetes before. I mean, I guess cloud native must really feed into this, right?
Oh, big time. So with in the world of Kubernetes, the the rate of change is so quick, and you really need to understand, which pods are part of which services are dependent on, what the other service, and it just becomes extremely complex, and it's very fast paced, and it's very ever so changing. And it's not just like someone's making a config change or someone's pushing something different, but it's just the very dynamic nature of Kubernetes, where it's like you might have 5 pods that are up and running trying to support a service, and then there's only 2, then there's 10. It really depends on load, because it's really good at being able to distribute load and make sure that performance stays up and is going. But again, all those dynamic moving parts can be quite a challenge for sure.
Yeah, we put out the press release for this last week, and we got a lot of questions about that specifically dynamic environments and how managing them and how that feeds into all these challenges that folks face. So that's a good overview then of kind of where things are now in the IT ops landscape. So AIOps to the rescue. What are the drivers for AIOps adoption? And we asked that exact question, oddly enough. All right, I think that first one is kind of the standard of response we would probably think to get right, Melissa, improved service application availability and performance.
Well, yeah.
I love those next 2 though, because once again, here's automation. People really want to automate the operations and the processes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, that number one response is exactly why we have these tools. We want to make sure that our applications and services are always performing well and are available to our customers. Everything below on the survey helps support that initiative, all the automation that we talked about earlier. If you can automate processes, you make things more efficient. It'll help you identify root cause faster. It'll help you, get your mean time to detect and resolve down. So it all goes hand in hand, really. Yep.
Right. So I guess the next question we asked was, what features and capabilities are you looking for? What's most important in your AIOps solution? And we at OpsRamp absolutely love that top answer that people gave us: built-in monitoring and native instrumentation. That's kind of a debate in this space, isn't it, Melissa? What does Gartner call it? Domain specific versus domain agnostic?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the built-in monitoring and native instrumentation becoming the number one most important thing here really did surprise me a bit. It was a pleasant surprise for sure, but it did. There's a lot of AIOps tools that are decoupled from native instrumentation. And I think it's important to find that platform that provides both, honestly. I mean, I just didn't think it would be number one on the list, but I'm happy to see it here. In terms of, incident visualization, I think this makes a lot of sense. I hear this a lot, especially in a timeline, being able to understand what happened and when, being able to go back in time and see exactly what happened and what was impacted. Super important. But another one that kind of surprised me, Dennis, is ease of deployment and ease of use was at the very bottom. And I'll tell you why. I have conducted field research. I have interviewed so many IT professionals, and a recurring theme was always around ease of deployment, ease of use, and quick time to value. As a matter of fact, I had a person say to me just last year, I kid you not verbatim quote, but close enough: if my 6-year-old cannot get this up and running in 10 minutes, then we have a problem. It has to be dead simple. And I was like, are you kidding me?
It's a 6-year-old, I don't know.
I kid you not. He might have even said 4. I don't exactly remember, but I just remember being shocked. And, as a result, as a product manager, I've always been really hypersensitive to user experience and out-of-the-box value. So when I saw that one kind of low on the list, it definitely surprised me a bit there. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar. I mean, my first thought is, well, is that just an acceptance that this is fairly complex technology, and if you really want to get a lot of power out of it, you're going to have to just accept that it's might not be the easiest thing to deploy or use, or again, it could just be a confirmation bias of sorts of our audience, where they just they don't want to admit that this is a challenge, and oh no, we don't worry about that, we got that figured out, no problem. So I don't know, it could be a little bit of both, maybe.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, I mean, you bring a good point to this, because a lot of these tools aren't necessarily that easy to deploy. It's just that's what everybody's desiring. So I think maybe people are just used to it. You know what I mean?
No pain, no gain, right?
Yeah.
But built-in monitoring native instrumentation, and that does promote what we talked about a few slides earlier. That promotes tool consolidation, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So let's look a little bit about what's driving AIOps adoption and what's important to people as they make those tool selections. How are people using AIOps today? And again, I should have said this at the beginning, but everybody we interviewed for this did identify themselves as having deployed AIOps. That was a key qualifying question. So these are all people that at least think they're doing AIOps. So how is your team currently using AIOps tools? And definitely, a little bit of a difference here between enterprises and MSPs. Intelligent alerting at the top there by a significant margin. Look at MSPs though; they're a little bit more farther advanced on incident auto remediation. Any takeaways from this one, Melissa?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, if you look at the percentages, they're so close. They're so close because all of it's, I think that all of these are really valid use cases of why your team is currently using AIOps. But I would say that one of the first things you should want to tune when implementing AIOps is noise reduction. So again, no surprises there. I was a bit surprised to hear about capacity optimization being as low on the list for enterprises.
People aren't that excited about capacity optimization.
Okay, so it really depends on where your workloads reside, right? I mean, I've spoken to quite a few people that are worried about this, but it's mainly in the cloud, right? So you want to strike that perfect balance between cost and performance. So how can I right size this while keeping my customers happy? I just feel like cost optimization, it just comes up a lot in conversation, but maybe it's just because I've been speaking to a lot of folks that are doing a cloud shift, or mostly cloud shift at this point, and they're really worried about what that cost is going to look like.
Okay.
So maybe that's, and capacity plays into that. So maybe that's
could be something they want to get to later on, right? As they
perhaps
advance and they're mature in their deployments.
All right.
Okay, so how long does it take to deploy AIOps? So people weren't too concerned about the ease of use and deployment, right? And now I was surprised by this because this is complex stuff. It takes a while to deploy.
Yes.
But look at that. A majority, first of all, said 1 month, within 3 months. And over 80% said within 6 months. I was like, wow, okay. All right. People are more advanced in this than I would have thought. We're just exaggerating, one or the other.
Maybe. No, I thought the same thing. I had to take a minute to think about it. I'm like, well, why is it how in the world are these people setting this stuff up in 1 to 3 months? That's super impressive. And then I was thinking, this is all relative because your AIOps strategy might be, and goals might be different than mine. And what I mean by that is I could have 3 simple use cases that could take a couple of months to implement. Well, you might be trying to tackle major projects such as noise reduction, proper incident routing, probable causes, dependency mapping, all the way to auto remediation, and that takes a bit more time. So it really depends. I mean, because everybody also, that's another thing is when you talk about AIOps, it's just such a broad topic that it can mean something slightly different to everyone. So I'd be really interested to find out exactly for the folks that did deploy this or get this set up in 1 to 3 months, exactly what their AIOps strategy looked like. That would be really interesting, I think.
We might have some insights into this as we go along, but let's look at, I think this next slide tells us a little bit of something, the benefits they're getting, right? So the benefits of AIOps, and we actually showing enterprises and MSPs on the same screen here to make it a little bit easier to analyze this chart here. So reduction in open incident tickets. Okay, that's pretty much what we'd expect to see, right? That's one of the first things our customers tend to point to is in the case studies that I work on, right?
Right. Yeah, no, it's not surprising at all. Like I said before, the first thing you want to tackle is noise reduction. Once you have this under control, you can start improving, time to detect, time to resolve. And after that's pretty smooth, start automating mundane tasks to keep your teams, doing the more, innovative, fun things. Or you could also do that in improving MTDD and TTR could also be something you do in parallel with automating tasks. But the first thing you want to do is just that noise reduction, which starts with the alert noise reduction, which then right after that would be the incident noise reduction, and really start to kind of deduplicate and normalize some of that data in your environment, so that you're really only you're getting rid of that noise and just focusing on the stuff that really matters. So makes sense to me.
And that will help you with number 2 there too, right? Reduction
Right.
in MTTD, MTTR.
Exactly.
So, and there's automation. So I maybe it's just me, but I kind of thought that was indicating that people are, maybe not quite as far along as we learned earlier in the survey, that automation is important to them. That's really a goal here. I guess those numbers are pretty good, but compared to the other, I always like to look at things in relative to everything else. When you give them the option of checking off as many boxes as they want to. And so 50%, half of enterprises, a little more than half of MSPs. That tells me that maybe people are not really as far along as automation as they'd like to be, and still have a bit more progress to make in that area.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we see this across, our customer base as well. And, and other IT professionals I've spoken to, that is the desired result, or end result, right? Is being able to automate as much as possible. But, it's often the last stop in the AIOps journey. It's kind of like, let me fine tune things. Let me get these models up and running and fine tuned. Let me reduce this noise, do proper automated routing of incidents, make sure that I have all these different things in place, all these right correlation policies set up really nicely. Then we're going to start thinking about how can we automate it. So at least I feel like that is the end result, but it's one of those last stops that they take. But it's definitely something that's highly desired in IT.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And when you get, again, once you get to that automation, that frees up your teams to just do so much more, right? And you can really be a bit more aggressive and creative with your digital transformation strategies.
Exactly.
And look at the suppression of alert. I know we talk about that at OpsRamp, right? We can suppress and deduplicate your alerts. Is that kind of? I would think that would be a little bit higher up, no?
I mean, if you think about it, when we dissect this a little bit, I almost feel like reduction in open incidents. First, you want to suppress.
Tied in with that, right?
Yeah, right. Because you want to suppress and deduplicate your alerts, correlate your alerts, because you've got a flood of alerts coming in, right?
Yeah.
And then what we do from there is normalization, which is deduplication. So we look and we say, there's 50 alerts coming from this exact same problem from this resource. We're going to zero that down. We're just narrow that down to 1. And then we see these other 5 different devices that are also impacted that are related to the same problem. So we pull all those in together for you with our correlation engine, right? So then you end up with just 1 alert and 1 incident with the root cause nicely buttoned up there for you, or the probable root cause that says, we saw these 500 alerts come in. We are now narrowing it down to 4. Because there's 4 different devices that cause this problem, and we're creating 1 incident because they're all related to the same issue. So that is massive noise reduction, which we see across the board with our customers, which helps reduction in open tickets, right? It helps reduce the time to detect and resolve. And then once you get this down, then you can start to automate some of these resolutions. So you can start to automate the problems, and so you get the incident. And then we can auto resolve it for you from there, which is quite possible. It's actually not as intimidating as it sounds. So
So there's clearly, I think there's a roadmap for this kind of thing, and the benefits you're going to see, and as you progress in your implementations, and I think folks are still making some progress, but they've got a ways to go, even if they think they've implemented AIOps. I mean, clearly they have, but it's a journey, not so much a destination, right?
Right.
Yeah. So naturally, people have concerns and challenges as they're implementing AIOps. Might have to take some time out of their day to do some yoga like this guy here. So what is that top concern? And this has come up before in our AIOps surveys: data accuracy.
Yeah.
Probably not a surprise, Melissa, right? And I think I bet that ties more to having so many tools and generating so much data and alerts and that you got to pour through, right?
Yeah, I mean, I hear this all the time, and I feel the same way. I'm very skeptical when it comes to tools that are trying to tell me what the problem is without really understanding how they derived to that conclusion. And this is why AI ops tools should definitely eliminate the black box that plagues them. Um, when you come up with a root cause or a list of probable causes, you should always have the data that has been analyzed to help support the theory, and that really helps ease that feeling of data inaccuracy. So if you can actually see the data that we've analyzed and say, hey, we saw this problem, we think these are the probable causes. And by the way, here's the data that we analyzed and collected. Here's the log data. Here's the alert data. Here's the metrics. Here's the application tracing data. We've put it all here together for you. And we wrapped it up with a nice bow so you can take a look at it. And I'm a very data driven person myself. So I don't believe you unless you show me the evidence. Right. So I mean I think that's really important to have an AI ops solution that will show you the data and eliminate the black box there.
Sure. So looking further down the list there, cost is a bit more of a concern for the enterprises versus the MSPs. MSPs in turn have a little bit more of an issue with filling that skills gap, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty significant difference there. And we did the MSP survey last year, and it kind of became apparent that a lot of folks are going to be, outsourcing more things to MSPs to do. So it's like they're kind of like transferring that skills gap from the enterprise to the MSP almost, it seems, right?
Yeah. I mean, I understand why it's a major concern. I mean, while some people want to believe that AI ops tools are magical and you can just point data to them and all your problems will go away, it's just not the case, honestly. Humans still need to be involved. Everyone's like, technology is going to take over my job. Just no way. Absolutely no way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like they definitely require configuration and an understanding, or at least a small understanding of machine learning, but really just more of an understanding of what your environment and being able to help course correct. So humans definitely need to get involved. They need to help with these, train the machine learning models. When it comes up with probable causes, and we say, does this look right? And then the end user can say, no, it doesn't look right, and then it just gets smarter and smarter from there. But the skills gap is definitely, I can see why that would be a concern there.
Yeah, you mentioned job elimination, and that was one of the things we asked about, and it didn't really register too much with either the enterprises or the MSPs. And we get that question from the journalists all the time that cover this space. Or automate more things? Are you just going to take away people's jobs, and are people going to be resistant to deploying this because of that? And from this, I would say no.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't think so. Like I said, it's like machines can't magically take over the world. Humans are always going to be needed. At least that's what we like to think.
We hope, right?
Right.
Want to be living in the Terminator or anything like that.
Right.
So lengthy implementation cycles, again, that is again, nobody's too concerned about that. Whether that's just bravado or people really have this down, I don't know. But it's funny that it keeps coming up in these questions and indicates that people aren't that concerned, or just per se they aren't concerned.
It's still something that people are concerned about because it's here, and I can understand, because I guess it really depends on your role. Is if you are maybe you're in a role where you feel like this technology that's coming out could definitely decrease the amount of people that are needed, right? So then job elimination would be more concerning to you. But in IT in general, I feel like it's such a, I mean, when I think about what the infrastructure looked like even 10 years ago compared to what it looks like even 5 years ago compared to what these IT infrastructures look like today, it is just really overwhelming. And you just definitely need to have that dedicated skill set to be able to not just like monitor these environments, but keep them up and running, fine tune them, and make sure that your customers are super happy. It's definitely a very complex world. one in which definitely machines are not going to be able to overtake. Right.
Right. So people are going to have to, are going to have to keep their skills updated, right? And maintained, because things are constantly changing, right?
Yeah.
You got to be on your toes. You got to be signing up for those workshops and improving your skills all the time.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads us into our next question. And how long does it take for you to hire machine learning or AI engineers? And my little cheap shot at the bottom there. It takes longer to hire for AIOps than to deploy it, according to what our survey respondents told us.
Yeah.
Anything stand out to you there, Melissa? I thought you'd say that you didn't think this was it should be that hard right now at this point.
No, I wouldn't say that. I'm just thinking about that a little bit more. Data scientists are. This is such a complex, difficult, and very ever-changing, fast-paced environment, and it really is hard to find like dedicated skill set for your. It varies depending on the environment too. And I think it's probably, it's proven here that it's difficult to find that skill set that really matches or closely matches what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think probably if you're using different tools, you might have people that have skill sets that are specific to that tool, right? And
right.
What if you can't find somebody who knows this, but they know that? Yeah, okay. So, yeah. Okay. So that brings us to the end of our session today. Again, I asked, we're not doing a Q&A, a live Q&A today, but if any questions do come up on any of this topics, if you have any feedback for us, I would love to hear from you. So you just send an email to me at my email address there. And I believe everyone who signed up for this webinar will be receiving a copy of our report, which came out last week. So that is all I have. Thank you, Melissa. It was a great conversation.
Yeah,
thank you, David, and the team at ITOps Times for hosting us today. Any final words, David?
Sure. Yeah, well, I certainly, would like to thank you guys for that deep dive into the state of AI ops and, what the drivers are and, some surprising findings in there for sure. But we're certainly seeing, kind of a nice increase of adoption, and people are certainly looking into it more to try to gain the efficiencies that they certainly can provide. So thanks again to Dennis and Melissa for the great presentation. Thanks to OpsRamp for sponsoring today's event. Thanks to all of our attendees for tuning in and listening to this great session. And with that, I'll say once again, I'm Dave Rubenstein, Editor-in-Chief of ITOps Times. So long for now.